Welcome to this lesson on listening part C. In this lesson, we're just going to be going through extract 1 of the listening. And hopefully you've done the listening on stuttering, because that's what we're going to be looking at. After you have done the listening, please remember to tick the completion box and you'll be able to do the second extract, which is on osteopathy. Okay, all the best. Okay, so this is the last video on the listening course, and hopefully you've watched the other videos. After this, you will do a short listening, extract 2 on osteopathy, and then really you're good to go with some practice tests. So let's have a look at this paper. This is about stuttering. First of all, the first question asked you about people being disfluent. Now, it's really important you understand the question clearly because it didn't ask you about people who are disfluent, and that's an important distinction to make. People who are disfluent are always disfluent. It's part of their speech. It's something that they always do. But people being disfluent could be anybody because I guess we're all disfluent at some time. And that's what they were asking about. What does the speaker say about these people? Which is pretty much about everyone, because as I said, we're all disfluent at some time. Okay, so this is the tape script. If you just want to pause the video here and have a quick read of the tape script, then please go ahead and pause the video. So I'm just going to highlight a sentence here. The speaker says, we know that people are disfluent in many, many normal situations. So almost immediately you're being led to one of the answer options, and I think you can see option C. There's nothing extraordinary about them. And you can see many, many normal situations. You can kind of see the link there, but it's important you keep listening. And then the speakers talked about people who are learning a language. And when you're learning a language, I guess you need time to think and you're translating and you become disfluent. And that's the example the speaker gave. You may have seen these words here, trying to think, and they're in option B. That may lead you to option B. But as I said before, it's important you keep listening. And this is what the speaker said, and it's quite an important sentence. She says, that's a disruption to fluency that's perfectly normal. So people learning a language is perfectly normal to become disfluent. And again, you can kind of see it's leading you back to option C. And then at the end, the speaker talked about older people becoming disfluent. Again, I've highlighted a couple of words here. You can see the word frustrate and disrupted, and you see similar words in answer option A, frustrated and disruption. But just make sure you read the questions carefully and you listen carefully, because the speaker was talking about families being frustrated, whereas the question talked about people being disfluent, being frustrated. So not the same thing. So you can rule out answer option A, and I think you can probably get the answer if you put everything together. The answer was, in fact, option C. She was saying there's nothing unusual about people being disfluent. And the examples she gave of language learners or older people, just an example of people being disfluent. Okay, so number 2, they wanted to know about the flow of speech and what point was the speaker making about the flow of speech. Again, here's the tape script. If you just want to take a second and pause the video and just have a quick read of the tape script. Okay, so the speaker, she started off and she almost gave a definition of fluency, the ease of speech production, talking about effort someone puts in, coordination, just kind of almost like a mathematical equation of fluency. But as you listened, she said here, stuttering can disrupt any of these dimensions. And you can see in answer option B, you see similar words, disrupt and dimensions. But again, you've just got to make sure you read the question carefully, because the question was asking you about the flow of speech. And it says the flow of speech disrupts dimensions. But the speaker was talking about stuttering. Stuttering disrupts dimensions. So it's not the same thing. So just make sure you do read the questions carefully and that you do listen carefully. As you listened on, the speaker carried on talking about the speed of talking and stuttering, and I've highlighted this sentence here. She said it can have an impact on effort of speech production. It sounds a little bit like option C. And you see these words, impact on speech production. But option C also has the word negatively. Now, the speaker didn't actually say that this was a negative impact. You may infer this, but you've just kind of got to be careful because she doesn't actually even imply this, really. And really, if you keep listening, like I say, it really is important you listen to the whole audio. She says here at the end, she talks about putting a lot of effort into speaking. It's effortful to get the words out. And when you listen to that, I think you can see, in fact, what the answer is. It's answer option A. That was the point she was making about the flow of speech. B and C were both a little bit inaccurate. Okay, option 3, she talked about covert and overt features of stuttering. And again, you can see actually in these answer options, they were very short and just picked up on some words. A talked about the senses, sight, smell, touch, taste, and hearing as well, which are the 5 senses. And then option B talked about them being dissimilar. C said that they are both measurable, that we can measure both covert and overt stuttering. So here's the tape script. Again, if you just quickly want to pause the video and have a quick read, then please go ahead and pause the video. So as we see what the speaker was saying, she started off by giving a definition of overt stuttering. And I've underlined these words here, see and hear, because they're related to the senses, and it kind of leads you to option A. However, as you read on, you'll notice, in fact, she talks about frowning and blinking. So these aren't related to the senses. So actually, quite early on, you could rule out option A. Also, she said something about overt stuttering being measurable. You can measure that behavior, she said. So it could possibly be option C. As we keep listening, the rest of the audio, she talked about covert stuttering and basically gave a definition of it. And you can see that it was quite different there, and in a way they're kind of opposites. Here, these are things that you can't see because they're emotions. And she gives examples, anxiety and despair or embarrassment. So nothing about covert stuttering being measurable. So basically, the answer is option B. They're dissimilar in many ways. Question 4 talked about blocking, and again, just really paying attention to the question because it didn't ask you what blocking is. They wanted to know, why was the speaker talking about blocking? What was she trying to show you? You look at the answer options, and I don't know if you underlined any words to help you. A was basically contrasting blocking with repetitions. B was to show that there's lots of ways speech can be disrupted. And C was to show you that speech disruption, it can happen even without anything being said. So here's the tape script. And if you just want to pause the video quickly. So just having a look at what she said. She started off by introducing this, saying that someone who stutters can have their speech disrupted in a variety of ways. I'm sure you can see that kind of guides you to option B. But as I said before, it is really important you keep listening. She then gave an example of repetitions. And then she gave an example of what blocking is as well. And really that was it. So you left really with the whole audio. One was an example of repetitions, one was an example of blocking. And the question was asking you, what is she trying to show you by talking about blocking? Well, wasn't really A, she wasn't really contrasting it. And also with C, I don't think that was the point she was really making. And really going back to that first sentence, it really was important. And it really is important to keep listening, because if you do miss even one sentence, it could be crucial. If you had missed that first sentence, I think it would have been really difficult to get the answer. Okay, so the answer was option B. And going on to number 5. This time she was talking about stretch sounds. And in a way, it's similar to question 4. They wanted to know, why was she trying to show you? What was she trying to show you with stretch sounds? Why was she talking about this? Here's the tape script. If you want to pause the video, then please go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so she started off just by saying that these stretched sounds are another example of stuttering behavior. And she gives an example of a stretched sound, and you may have picked up on the word inappropriate. But again, make sure you do read the question carefully. Here it says speech behavior is inappropriate, but she was talking about sounds. Stretched sounds are inappropriate. So it's not the same thing. It's not going to be answer A. It's a little bit different. The rest of the audio, really, she was talking about another example, not stretch sounds, but people inserting sounds. People inserting this into their speech. So you can actually discard all that. You don't really need that part of the audio. It was only the beginning of the audio you would find the answer. And I missed out this sentence here. This is really important. She says, after talking about stretch sounds, she said, it's a loss of control of the flow of speech. And I think you can see the answer option. It's answer option B. The final question, it asked you about the main point. What was the main point the speaker was making about stuttering? You can see the word people in all of the answer options. As you look at the options, A, talking about outgoing people aren't too affected by stuttering, or B, that people, they're impacted in lots of different ways, or C, that people with a mild stutter find things more difficult. This is the tape script, and if you just want to quickly pause the video and have a read, please go ahead. Okay, so she says not everybody who stutters has the same degree of impact. Okay, she says people with a mild stutter, it can impact somebody significantly. Even though it's a mild stutter, it could have a big effect on them, and they may avoid social situations, for example. And she said people with severe stutters, they might be outgoing, they might be sociable and very confident. So it doesn't make a great deal of a difference to them. And then she says the amount of stuttering is not always related to the impact of stuttering on the individual. Okay, so what you have there really, you've got all of the answer options. You've got A, B, and C. All of them are mentioned in the audio. However, only one of them is really the main point. And you have to think, what is the speaker trying to show you? Well, The answer here, when you put the first sentence together with the last sentence, I think you can see that really the answer, it's B. That's really what she was trying to show you. That people are affected by stuttering in different ways, that we're all individuals and we're all affected differently. But it's just really important you do listen to the whole audio. Here, the answer came at the beginning and at the end. It wasn't just one sentence in the middle, but you needed to understand the whole of the audio, this paragraph, to get the answer. Okay, well, I hope that was of some use. Please tick the completion box. Once you have done so, you can do the second extract on osteopathy, and then you're good to go with the practice tests. Okay, thanks for watching.